You and the guy at the next bench start the same week, same lab, same white plaster dust in the creases of your hands by 10 in the morning, same lunch you eat standing up. He makes $6,000 a year more than you do. He's better at this than you are, and everybody knows it. 11 years from now, there's going to be a number between the two of you. Neither of you will have earned it. Neither of you will remember the day it started, and he's going to say his out loud, in front of everyone, like it's nothing. His name's Bryce Hallman. He shakes your hand that first morning with a grip that's a little too confident for a room this quiet. Polo shirt, ironed. Nobody irons a polo to sit under a work lamp for 9 hours. He does. The lab is a converted back suite behind a 2-story office building. 8 benches, low ceiling, and that sweet chemical smell that gets into your jacket and stays there through the weekend. By 10, your knuckles are pale. By noon, there's a chalk taste at the corner of your mouth, and you stop noticing that a long time ago. Same job title, same bench height, same fluorescent tube humming over both of you. The starting line is perfectly even. Except it isn't, because he's making $64,000 and you're making $58,000, and he's faster than you. He shades a molar in half the time it takes you, and it looks better when he's done. That's not modesty. It's just true, and you'd say it out loud if anybody asked. So here's the part that doesn't make sense yet. 11 years from this Monday, the two of you will be standing 8 feet apart in a bathroom with a broken paper towel dispenser. One of you will have $412,000. The other will have $9,000. Nobody inherits anything. Nobody wins anything. The money comes from the same 2 paychecks it always came from. The first fork shows up 9 weeks in, and it doesn't look like a fork. It looks like an envelope in your mail slot with the lab's return address on it. Retirement plan enrollment. 6 pages. Maybe you read it. Maybe you read the first page and the bold parts, and then flipped to where the signature line was. That's what most people do, and there's no shame sitting in it. You pick the middle option because it's in the middle. 6%, matched at 4. Then it goes in the tray by the door and you go back to work. You forget it that same afternoon. That's not a figure of speech. It never crosses your mind again for 11 years. Bryce reads all 6 pages. He reads them at lunch with a pen in his hand, and he asks good questions. Which funds? What the expense ratios are. Whether the match vests right away or over 4 years. They're better questions than any question you asked. He decides to wait until he's picked the right one. Currently, about 1/3 of American workers don't put in enough to get the full company match they're offered. Free money, sitting there. It doesn't get skipped because people are careless. It gets skipped because it's waiting on a decision that never gets made. The second fork lands 4 months later, in a parking lot. Your car dies. Not dramatically. It just stops turning over in the cold, and you stand there with your hand flat on the roof, feeling the metal go colder than your palm. You buy a 9-year-old sedan from a guy 2 streets over. $3,100, cash, no payment. It smells like somebody else's dog. Bryce buys new, not extravagant. Sensible, even. A small crossover with good reviews and a warranty that covers everything. $419 a month. A new car loses about 1/5 of its value the first year, and he knows that. He's read about it. He factored it in. Here's the thing you won't understand for another decade. The one who read it carefully is the one who ends up behind. Fork 3 happens on a Tuesday and takes 4 minutes. The payroll woman asks if you want your check split across 2 accounts. People do it for rent or for a kid's college thing. You say yes. Mostly because yes is the shorter word. $200 a paycheck starts going somewhere you don't look, which brings the 4th fork, and this one you did on purpose, sort of. The second account is at a credit union 11 miles out, in a lobby that smells like carpet glue. No app, no card attached to it. To pull money out, you'd have to drive there on a weekday before 4. It's a stupid wall. You'd call it that yourself if anyone brought it up. But a stupid wall you can't be bothered to climb beats, a smart rule you have to keep agreeing to. 11 years. You never take money out of it. Not once. Not because you're disciplined, because it's Tuesday and the place closes at 4. Bryce keeps everything in one account. Every dollar in there is equally available to every part of his life, which sounds like freedom. And it is. That's exactly the problem. Ilene Marsh pours models at the last bench by the window. 61 years old, gray hair pinned up with something that isn't a real hair clip. She brings lunch in a glass container with a blue lid. She's brought lunch in that same container for as long as anyone here can remember. Bryce jokes about it once. Not mean. Just a joke. She laughs along, and the laugh doesn't reach anywhere. You assume it's because she has to. Everybody assumes tight, in the way people assume things about quiet, older women in break rooms. Nobody in this lab ever asks her a single question about money. Why would they? She eats out of a glass box. Year 6, the lab lands a contract with a dental group across the state line. Everybody gets a raise. Everybody. It's the only year that ever happens. Bryce moves apartments in August. Nothing crazy. 1 bedroom to 2. A building with a gym he uses twice. $200 more a month. The crossover gets traded for a truck because he hauled his brother's furniture all spring and it made sense at the time. $680 a month now. Every one of those decisions is defensible. Ask him about any single one and he'll walk you through the math, and the math will be right. Most Americans spend more within a year of getting a raise. Not on anything foolish. Mostly on things that used to feel like reaching and now just feel like normal. That's the trick of it. The system was built to look like a reward. Here's what you do with your raise. Nothing. Not out of virtue. You just never see it. The payroll split is a percentage, not a dollar amount, and it swallowed the increase before it ever touched your checking account. Nobody announces this. It happens on a Friday while you're shading a bridge. Then in October, the credit union needs an account number for a form. The balance loads. You sit in the parking lot with the engine running and the heater on the wrong setting, reading a number that's bigger than the number in your head. Not by a little, by enough that you check the account name twice to make sure it's yours, and then you close the browser. There's a bridge due Thursday. Whatever that number means, it can mean it later. Maybe you should have sat with it longer. Or maybe that's exactly why it kept growing. Nobody grows a number they're watching every day. That's the year Bryce starts talking about his plan. He has one. It's a good plan. It's better than yours, and he can explain it in the break room in under 2 minutes. You don't have a plan. You have a payroll setting and a credit union that closes at 4. Year 8, the lab goes to Cancun. Not the whole lab, 6 of them, split off a group rate Bryce found, 4 nights, flights included. He works out the per-person cost on the back of a case envelope, and it's honestly not bad. $1,100 and change. He shows you the envelope like he's handing you a gift. And you say you can't make that week work. That's the 6th fork, and it's the only one that hurts. Nobody at the bench believes the scheduling thing. They don't push. They just move the conversation somewhere else, the way people do. And by Thursday, there's a group chat you're not in. You have the $1,100. That's what nobody would guess about this part. The money's there. It's sitting 11 miles out in a credit union with a carpet glue lobby, and it would take 1 drive on 1 weekday afternoon. The wall works both directions. Maybe you tell yourself it's about the money. Or maybe you don't tell yourself anything, and you just get in the car and drive home and eat over the sink. They come back tan. Somebody brings hot sauce for the break room, and it sits in the cabinet for 2 years. Bryce has a photo of the 6 of them on the beach as his phone background for the rest of the year, and every time he checks the time you see it. Here's the thing nobody warns you about. Doing the right thing with money feels exactly like being left out. There's no separate feeling for it. The body doesn't file them differently. Same tight chest. Same lunch alone with plaster dust on your knuckles, scraping a margin line under a lamp while the group chat lights up somebody else's pocket. 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the reward is a number you never look at in an account you can't reach. So why does the one who's ahead feel like the one being left behind? Year 10, Ilene Marsh stops showing up. Not sick, not fired. There's an email on a Friday with the word retirement in the subject line, and 9 people read it and go back to work. No cake, no card going around in a manila folder. 61 years old. Somebody clears her bench that afternoon and finds a glass container with a blue lid still in the break room fridge, washed, waiting for a Monday that isn't coming. Bryce is the one who says it. 61? Good for her, I guess. Hope she's got something lined up. He means it kindly. That's what makes it land the way it does. 9 years of watching a woman eat out of a glass box, and the whole lab decided what that meant on day one and never checked again. She isn't tight. She retired 4 years before he plans to, and she did it on a ceramist salary. Nobody in the room connects those two facts, including you, at first. It takes about a week. That's the 7th fork, and it's the strangest one, because you don't do anything. You just start measuring differently. Not the balance. The years. How many of them are already paid for? Roughly half of American households carry a credit card balance from month to month, and the average one sits above $6,000. Half the country is renting last year from itself, at interest. October, you log into the credit union on the actual desktop version, not the phone, because there's still no app. 10 years and 8 months of $200 a paycheck. The percentage raise from year 6, riding along quietly underneath. The match. The index fund the credit union defaulted you into, the boring one, the one you never chose because choosing would have required an opinion. The number loads. You read it 3 times, and the 3rd time is when the lamp starts to sound loud. The bathroom at the back of the lab has a paper towel dispenser that's been broken since spring. Everybody dries their hands on their pants. It's a whole thing. Year 11, a Wednesday, and Bryce is at the sink next to yours. He says it flat, the way you'd read a weather report. 9 grand. That's it. That's what I've got, after all of it. $9,000. Said out loud, in a normal voice, to a guy holding wet hands over a sink. He isn't ashamed. He's tired, and there's a difference. 412,000. That's the other number, and it stays exactly where it is, which is inside your mouth. He'd have said his either way. That's who he is. And now the part you've had wrong the whole time. It was never the truck. $680 a month for 4 years is real money, but run it against the gap and it's a corner of it, not the thing. Count the decisions instead. In 11 years, you made 7. A signature you didn't read. A dead car replaced with a worse one, a payroll split, a credit union 11 miles out with a lobby that closes at 4, a raise you never met, a trip you didn't take, a woman with a glass container who taught you what a year is worth. 7. Bryce made 1 every month, sometimes more. Call it 132, and here's what nobody tells you. He won most of them. Better research, better questions, better math, better instincts than yours on nearly every single call. He beat you 120 times, easy. Discipline doesn't lose. Discipline just runs out. Nobody built the system to punish careful people. It just charges you for every decision you have to make, and the bill comes due in a currency you can't see going out. You're standing at a sink with wet hands when it finally means something. Not more money. Just the first time you understand what was happening on all the days you weren't paying attention. Nothing changes on Thursday. There's a bridge due, and you shade it, and by 10 your knuckles are pale again. Same lamp, same chemical smell in your jacket. Same chalk taste at the corner of your mouth that you stopped noticing 11 years ago. Ilene's old bench belongs to somebody new now, a kid about 24 who's fast and a little careless with the margins. He'll get better. There's an envelope in his mail slot this week with the lab's return address on it. 6 pages. You watch him carry it to his bench and set it down under his phone, and you don't say anything. Maybe you should. Maybe there's a version of this where you walk over and explain the whole thing in 2 minutes. But it doesn't explain in 2 minutes. That's the entire problem with it. The good version sounds like nothing. It sounds like a form you signed without reading, and a bank you can't get to on a Tuesday. It never once feels like winning, and that's not a flaw in it. That's the price, and it's the only price, and it gets paid in a feeling instead of in dollars. The dust settles into the same 2 creases on your right hand every single day. Wash it, and by 10, it's back. 11 years of that, and somewhere underneath it, a number kept moving without asking you anything. So here's the only question worth taking home. How many decisions is your money asking you to make this month? And what would happen if the answer were 0?